Hi everybody, my name is Terry, and in this video we're going to remove and then install the rear wheel from a Ducati V2 Panigale. First off, we need to get the exhaust muffler out of the way. It's only short and stubby, but it's just in the wrong place. So there are 3 screws to do, 2 in the end here and 1 underneath, nice and easy. Once those little Allen head screws are out of the way, we can lift the end of the muffler off. And we can see the end of the pipe here now, but there's a bit of a shroud on the top here, and that needs to come off as well. Now, this should be held on by 2 screws, but unfortunately one's missing on mine. Fortunately, I've got a bag of spare bolts, so I just pick one that's the same thread and width, compare it to the bolt on the other side, which should be the same, so we get the length right, and saw it down, and that will do as a replacement for the one that was missing. The rear axle nut has a circlip, and the sprue on the end of this goes through the axle to stop the nut winding itself off, so we just remove that with a set of pliers. Now, the rear axle nuts on these bikes are famously tight, so a little bit of preparation is required in order to get it off safely. First of all, I've got quite a slippy garage floor, so I'm just going to put a mat, giving myself a little bit more friction, get the rear wheel over it, put the bike into gear, and then get my son to help me as I get it off. Now what he's going to do, once he gets his leg over, is he's going to apply the rear brake and the front brake, hold the bike steady, and I've bought myself a 3-foot breaker bar, and I'm going to go in and try and get the rear axle nut off. Just watch how I get on. Just while I get set up. Okay, brakes on?
Yeah.
Here we go. Yeah! Fucking hell. Alright, relax. Just put it on the stand. That ain't going to do it.
No?
No! Let me try the impact driver. While I'm getting the impact driver out, I should mention that the rear axle is quite a strange shape. You won't find a socket like this in any normal toolkit, and so you need to buy a special tool. You can get them on a well-known auction site and they cost next to nothing. I wouldn't bother going for the stainless steel really expensive ones. These cheap ones work just as well. I'm sure the impact driver will work. Alright, brakes on?
Yeah.
This is going to make lots of banging noises.
Got it?
I think. There we go. Let's see what's slipping. Whoop. Let me just put it back on. That's done it.
Yeah.
Alright, side stand down. Right down. That's it.
Oh.
As long as the side stands down, you're fine.
Okay.
Pardon me. That was tight.
So as you can see, these rear axle nuts are ridiculously tight. They're done up to 230 Newton meters. Anyway, now that it is safely loosened, we'll get the rear paddock stand on, and then we can take the nut off. Now when you take it off, you will find that underneath it there is a washer, which sort of hides in the recess on the bottom of the nut, but there is a big washer there. And then you have a conical shaped spacer, which goes into the wheel hub. If you can't get your fingers underneath that, just wiggle the wheel a little bit to create a space, and then it will come out nice and easy. And now there's enough room to gently twist the wheel to one side so you can get it off the bike, being careful that what you don't do is knock the inside of the wheel against the brake caliper. That's the closest point of contact. Now I'm taking the wheel off to put a new tyre on it, but while we're in here we might as well give the wheel hub and the thread in particular a really good clean, and also clean up the brake disc because we don't often get to see this side of it when it's on the bike. So I won't bore you with a tyre change. There are plenty of videos on the internet for that, but I've thrown on a Pirelli Diablo Rosso 4, which is the recommended tyre for this bike. Before we put the wheel back on, we'll just put some molybdenum or moly grease onto the thread of the hub and onto the shaft of the hub as well. What this does is it prevents water ingress, so hopefully you don't get little bits of rust that make it harder to get off next time. And this still of the hub gives you a good view of the 4 pointy spigots that have to be aligned with the corresponding holes in the back of the wheel when you install it.
So now I'm going to gently manoeuvre the wheel into position, twisting it to get it past the brake caliper and the exhaust stub and over the hub. And then I'm going to put my finger over one of the holes that the spigot goes into so that I can align it by eye and push it on. And there it is, ready to be screwed down. Next we put the conical shaper on with the tapered end in towards the bike, and then that washer, just giving it a good rub down. This is the washer that sort of hides in the back of the axle nut and is really easy to miss. We'll put that on next, and then the axle nut itself, which we'll screw down with our fingers as tight as we can. Giving the thread a good clean before I do it. There's already some moly grease on the thread of the hub, so I'm not going to bother putting any into the nut. Now I'm going to pop the bike into gear again. I won't be able to get the full torque on without some assistance, but I'm going to snug the nut up as much as I can while the bike's on the rear paddock stand. And now I've enlisted the help of my neighbour Bernie, who's also a mad keen biker, and let's see if we can get 230 Newton meters of torque onto this axle nut. 2 seconds. Here we go. And one more. That's it. We've done it. That was pretty painless. And with that done, we'll put the circlip back onto the axle nut. So we put the sprue through the hole first and then push the clip into the little recess in which it sits. Now I'll put the little black shroud back onto the exhaust with one of the new screws which I've made. This should be a really simple job, but actually there's a little bit of tension between the holes. They don't quite align when you put everything together. So my advice is just put both screws in a little bit loosely. You'll have to pinch things together with your fingers to get things to line up. And then when you're sure you've got the thread started on both of them, then tighten them down, alternating between the two, and it should be fine. And then finally on with the little stubby muffler, or the cover for it at least. And this is the same deal really, nothing quite lines up, so try and get the thread started on all 3 bolts just a little bit and then tighten them down alternately and it'll go on just fine. And that's it really, we've taken the wheel off, we've put the wheel back on, what more is there to say? I will leave you with a few gratuitous riding clips, no music because the sound of a Ducati is music enough. Thanks very much for watching, hope it was useful. Please leave some comments if there's anything that I could have done better and I will endeavour to change the video. Ride safely, see you next time.
Hello.